gonna make a favorite recipe of mine, and this is fresh salsa. It is also a fairly easy recipe that I feel you can successfully make and can, and who doesn't love chips and salsa? Gather all your ingredients and prep them according to the recipe, okay? And then also wash your jars, your bands, your lids, get those ready before you start anything else. But for now, I'm gonna finish chopping, getting my jalapenos. Oh, always wear like gloves when you cut the jalapenos, because don't trust yourself that you're not gonna touch your eye. I've done it before, it's terrible. Get everything prepped, ready to go, and then we'll get this salsa cooking. This salsa recipe calls for cored, peeled, and seeded tomatoes. And depending on the recipe you're doing, it'll tell you specifically. Sometimes you peel it, sometimes you take the seeds out, but don't peel it. So make sure you're following what it says. But when I first started canning, I had no clue how in the world you peel a tomato. You know, a tomato has a really thin peel. It's not like something else where you would just sit here. I mean, I guess you could do that, but that would take you till next year. So an easy way that I feel has helped me is to broil them just for a few minutes. So what you do is you cut the tomato you're gonna use in half, and then you literally run your thumb, make sure you clean your hands, along where the seeds are to remove the seeds. So if you're only removing seeds, that's what you could do. And then if you're actually removing the middles, you can just pull them out, okay? And I can remove before you cut it open, you could just remove the core, but the little end. So once you've done that, you can place them face down on a baking sheet and place in the oven for 5 to 10 minutes on broil. What that'll do is it won't cook the tomato, it'll just start the process where it warms it enough that the skin will actually start, here's a few that I had done, that the skin will actually start to just lift off, and so you can actually literally just peel it off and you can have your tomato ready for use. So that is one way you can peel your tomato. I find it fairly easy to do. Just cut your end, cut it in half, take the seeds out, take the middle out if you need to, place it face down. That is one way. You can also keep those peels if you want to use in something else. I dehydrate them and make them into tomato powder. So that's, if you don't want to waste anything, you can use them. Another easy way that a lot of people do for peeling their tomatoes specifically is if you freeze your tomatoes. I know for us, I have a lot of tomatoes right now in our freezer, because if you grow them, they come in a lot at the same time, and then you have more tomatoes than you can or do something with. So if you freeze them and you thaw them to then make a recipe, your thawed tomatoes will be kind of like this. This is gonna look super mushy for me to lift it, but it's a thawed tomato. The peel will just come off much easier. So on a recipe where you're just peeling and you don't need to get rid of all the insides and such, this can be really easy. There's my tomato now ready for use. So that is another way. I think a traditional method that's always recommended is to blanch the tomatoes. And that's when you get your water really boiling in a pot, you throw your tomato in for 30 to 60 seconds when it is hot boiling, and then you take it out and put it in cold water, and that process will cause that peel to start to separate, and you can remove it. Sometimes for me, the tomatoes are then like really, really hot and hard to handle, so you have to wait a little while, so it might take longer. Honestly, they all take a little bit of time. But just keep that in mind when you are making a recipe that calls for that, like for example, this salsa recipe, that is prep that you would be doing ahead of time before you actually start to get the canner going and start the recipe. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully that is helpful when you make the recipe. I have gotten all my ingredients ready and I've put them in this pot, and I am going to bring them to a boil and then turn it down and simmer it for 15 minutes. This recipe specifically calls for lime juice, which is fun. I love lime. Always remember to use bottled lime juice and not fresh. So that is what we did here. Once this is ready, I am gonna turn this on so my jars can start to warm, and then we'll be ready to get it going. My salsa has cooked for 15 minutes. My jars are warmed, and I am ready to start filling my jars. Get your jar lifter, get the water out, place it on a towel or cutting board, not on your countertop. We're gonna put our funnel down and we're going to fill this jar with your salsa. This recipe calls for a 1/2 inch headspace. So you're gonna remove a little bit just to make sure your headspace is correct. Always have a little wooden spoon nearby so you can scoop it out. And I'm gonna go to the 1/2 inch and I'm going to go all the way around and ensure that the salsa is at that level. And it is. Then I'm gonna take my bubble remover, I'm gonna go down the side of the jar and pull in, down the side of the jar, pull in, down the side, and just go all the way around to ensure you're clearing any bubbles that might be present. Okay, then I'll just finish wiping it. I will put my lid and band on. Fingertip tight, so go till you meet resistance and then just a smidge over. We're gonna place it in your warmed water and you're gonna grab your next jar and we'll keep going. So I have all my salsa jars in the pot and we're ready to start processing. So I'm going to cover it and I'm going to turn my heat up and I'm going to wait till there is a rolling boil. So you're going to, my pot you can't see, so I might have to listen and then check and look, and it's when that water is just going to be really boiling. Then you start your processing time. For this recipe it will be 20 minutes and after that is done we'll be ready to go to the next step. 20 minutes has passed and it's time to turn off the heat. And I'm gonna remove my lid and I'm gonna put it here and we're gonna wait for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes is when we are ready to take the jars out. All right, 5 minutes has passed, we're going in. I'm gonna place my jar on a towel or wood cutting board. And this is where I wait 12 to 24 hours before checking the seal. And after that, hopefully we have some delicious salsa to enjoy. This is the final result. And after 24 hours, you can check your seal. So I'm gonna go in, press down, really look. It looks good. This is really exciting. And we have our delicious salsa ready to eat.